everyone. Welcome back to What the Fertility. Today we have an exciting guest on with us. We have Helen Davenport Peace with us. She is a conception doula, a fertility yoga teacher. She has her own birth courses. She has her own website. She just started her new podcast, as well as fertility mentoring. I mean, the list goes on of all the things that she has. We are so excited to just hear from you and hear all the services that you offer, as well as you sharing your own personal journey.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, both of you, for having on the show. Because I'm a big fan of your podcast. It's so needed. It's so needed to hear people's stories when we're out there and we're so isolated and lonely. So yeah, really lovely to be on. So I am joining you from my studio, my yoga studio in Manchester in the UK, which is where I'm based. So yeah, the main body of my work, I work as a conception doula, which is something I kind of labeled and created myself. And what that essentially looks like is, so I did my yoga training about 5 years ago now. I specialized in fertility yoga and prenatal yoga and relaxation. So lots of restorative yoga with kind of props and bolsters and things. And soon realized that I'm a university lecturer by trade and education. I've stepped away from that now as my business expanded, which is amazing. I soon realized that people were coming for the yoga, but they were coming for so much more than that. You know, they were coming to meet other women that were on fertility, having their own fertility challenges. They were coming because they wanted to talk. And they were quite often, not everybody, but quite often very, very anxious. So, you know, that's my own journey and my experience. So now I work with supporting women through, maybe they haven't been trying that long, but they're really, really anxious and stressed. Maybe they're about to start an assisted conception cycle, and I support them in the ways that a doula would. And we typically think that a doula would support someone, and we attach that to pregnancy, don't we? But I've kind of applied it with, you know, someone's really struggling with their injections, if they need someone to help advocate in the clinic, all of that kind of stuff. I'm there by their side. So they come to me for hours, and some people want movement, some people want support with, they can't sleep, they're waiting for their embryologist call, you know, all that kind of stuff. I'm there, and I'm there in their phone as well. So they have me kind of in their back pocket. And that's been fantastic. And I'm working with an awful lot of women, some couples, not very many, majority women. And I also teach yoga courses as well for women who are trying to conceive. So I'm in the middle of one of those at the moment. And yes, I also have a birth course for people who are in long-awaited pregnancies, because I will come to my story. Anxiety was a huge piece for me when I finally was pregnant. So me and my colleague Hannah Tappenden, who's a reflexologist, fertility reflexologist, we have created this birth course and pregnancy support course really for women who have finally got there. And because it wasn't quite how I expected it would be when I finally got those 2 lines. So yeah, it's quite nuanced, it's very tender, it's knowing what those women have been through to get there and holding them through that space. So that's kind of the body of my work. I'm sure I probably missed a few bits out. I also work with other women that are working in fertility as a fertility practitioner, as a mentor, because that was where, you know.
Wow, that's incredible.
All married together really nicely. But of course, it's been born out of my own experience, my own journey. Not everyone likes the word journey, do they? But it does sum up kind of, don't think it ever really ends the journey, does it? But it kind of sums it up. So I will give you the express version of my journey. Very ordinary story, really. I got married at 33. I had wanted children for quite a long time. I'd been with another partner for most of my 20s who had not really wanted children, not with me anyway. So I had now got married. On our honeymoon, we were like, yes, I'm so excited. It's like, I'm so excited. And finally, we can try. And I just thought, I was very naive. I hadn't really had any friends who had struggled to conceive. There was no one in my family that had taken more than a month, 2-3 months to conceive. All my cousins, my sibling. It hadn't been part of my story to know other people that had struggled. So I just thought it would happen. I actually thought it would just happen straight away. So it's like, I didn't want to plan before the wedding because I wanted to be able to have a drink at the wedding. And I just went into it quite naive, really, quite innocent. And then it didn't happen for us. And, you know, it's very familiar. It's got to 6 months, started to think, well, this doesn't look great. But everyone says it does take time. Started the doctor's calls, GP. So essentially, we were unexplained for a very long time. The express version of that story is we do have a little boy now. He's 7.
Oh.
Third cycle of IVF. lots of things happening along the way. I had some investigative surgery, which didn't really find anything. There's all that kind of stuff we accrue. So I've skipped through 5 years there of kind of not nice times in my 30s.
Wow, 5 years. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Had my little boy at 38, which is amazing. I had a very stressful pregnancy. I will talk about my pregnancy a little bit. It's kind of where I've ended up where I am now, because I work with grief as well. So I want to talk a little bit about that. So my pregnancy, I had a condition called vasoprevia, which I don't know whether you've heard of that. It's something that's
I have not, no.
So placenta previa is where the placenta covers the cervix, isn't it? And most people have heard of placenta previa. But vasa previa is more complex. So I did have placenta. I had full placenta previa, so my placenta was low, which I think is more common in IVF pregnancies because of the way that the embryo gets transferred. No one was particularly worried about that. They were like, well, it might move, come back after the 20, they were going to scan me again at 32 weeks. And at 26 weeks, I had quite a catastrophic bleed, which was very stressful and was kind of blue lighted into hospital. And I had this condition diagnosed where vasoprevia, the umbilical cord isn't protected and it runs over the cervix. So the baby can die, and it's responsible for quite a lot of stillbirths, vasoprevia. It's very rare. It's staggeringly rare. So anyone listening to this who is now in their pregnancy, a long-awaited pregnancy, it's lightning strike rare. And unluckily for me, I got the lightning strike. What it means, if it's diagnosed, great, because the chances are everything's going to be okay, but I wasn't allowed to go home then. So I had to spend the rest of my 3rd trimester in hospital on bed rest.
Oh, my goodness.
And it was not.
The entire 3rd trimester you were in the hospital.
So when I talk about grief, I think for me, and I will talk more about grief as our conversation unfolds, grief isn't always the loss of someone, is it? It's so many things. So yeah, I think fertility robs us of so many things. And I was robbed of that kind of the baby shower zone, the going out with my bump. I didn't really even have a very big bump at 26 weeks. So yeah, I was in hospital that had many, many bleeds. Vasoprevia, that is a kind of something that comes along with it. Nearly had to go and deliver him very along the way. So we made it to 35 weeks, which is really good going, but it was hanging on by the skin of my teeth. So it's very traumatic, actually. It was a very traumatic 3rd trimester. After being very anxious in pregnancy anyway. So it wasn't like I breezed into pregnancy. When I finally got that pregnancy test, I was so shocked. Like you wait for this to happen for so long. And it was like, oh my goodness. And I was happy for all of about an hour. And then I was like, what if something goes wrong? It's like
then all the fear comes in. Yep.
You've waited it for so long. And I didn't think it would be like that. Because I could only focus on getting pregnant. That had been my focus for so long. It hadn't occurred to me that pregnancy itself might be very long. It's a lot of waiting. I don't know whether you identify with that or whether
absolutely.
It's like, whoa, I've got to get to the heartbeat, and then I've got to get to the next scan. And then it was like all these milestones that I had to kind of, time just went like treacle slow. Very, very anxious. But I had also been very anxious on my fertility journey as well. So anxiety is a big piece for me in what that looks like, and how we recover from these stories afterwards, because I think we go into motherhood, there's no rest in between your very long fertility journey, your traumatic, your stressful fertility journey, and then having a newborn that is dependent on you. There is no kind of time to make sense of everything that went before. So that's why I kind of work in these quite long arc of preconception through maybe assisted conception, or however people become pregnant, through pregnancy and through into motherhood as well, because I think fertility, I think for some people that they do manage to close the door on that, and then but I think for a lot of people it stays with you. I haven't been able to extend my family to the size that I would like to extend my family, because I was advised not that I might have that condition again, and for lots of other reasons. I think it's tricky, isn't it? And it's not talked about enough. So I'm about to, in September, train as a psychotherapist, because I really want to specialize as a psychotherapist in reproductive trauma. I don't think enough of them exist.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't think enough people in the fertility community get to tell their story, get to have anyone hold their grief, anyone hold the experiences that we endure, because we all do when we're in this place for, longer times. So yeah, they are all the things I'm passionate about. I realize I've said a lot of things there.
No, that's incredible. And I don't know if you knew this, but I have my license in counseling. So that is my background. So that's so cool. I really love that you're doing that. That's incredible.
I think you realize, don't you, that is the missing piece to me. It's like I can be there and I can support you with the knowledge that I have and the experience that I have from a previous career and my own experience, but I want to go a bit further in with that and see how we can help, because there are not enough therapists out there that have walked the walk, and to find the person that I do have actually have a brilliant therapist who hasn't walked the walk, but I think you can also run into people that don't know, and they try and they don't really understand it from the inside.
Absolutely. I know Kat has mentioned on other episodes before, and Kat wishes she could be here. But she has mentioned before, I think just she tried working with different counselors when she was going through it, and she couldn't work with them anymore because they just didn't get it. And I think that's just incredible, especially if you have walked it. And yeah, like you said, there are, therapists out there that are wonderful, even if they haven't gone through it. But it just, I think, hits so differently when you, as the therapist, can understand and really, truly like resonate what they're saying and what they're going through.
So
There's
is that
empathy.
is that your counselling field in fertility now?
No, so I actually stepped away once I had my son. So I'm no longer doing that. And 360, I opened up a children's clothing store. So completely different, but yeah,
Wow.
that was what I was doing.
Look how life takes us in these journeys, and yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, I would love to kind of have you, if you want to like break down like each kind of one. I know you mentioned a lot of different things that you do, but like for instance, the conception doula, like how people could even be a part of it, like how they could hire you, what that looks like. If you can kind of just like start from that process and explain that to us.
So I tend to work with people in a block of 4 or 6 sessions usually. Some people do come for an hour because they know exactly what they want and what they need. And then we tend to hone in on what it is. Like some people want the relaxation, they want the guided relaxation, they want yoga nidra, they're really struggling with sleep. They just want an hour where they can get on their mat, they can move their body. The fertility, so quite often I do fertility yoga. I have really specialized what my fertility yoga is. I do not offer that out as increase your chances of pregnancy. I don't really buy into that much for lots of reasons. Don't think there's enough evidence out. There isn't enough evidence out there for people to say. It's very inviting. I think it sells things very well. But I'm more interested in people being able to come back into their body, because I think trying to conceive it's so cognitive. Like we're on Google, we're trying to find things out, we're trying to research clinics, we're trying to plan things, plan our work schedule, right? It's so much. We're Googling symptoms, we're so up here. And I think anxiety comes out for the majority of people, whether they realize it or not, because we get quite disconnected with our body, don't we? Like we might start to wonder why we're getting digestive troubles now we're trying to conceive. And it's like, then we start to address our diet and we throw so many things at it. I know I did.
Yeah.
I went really far down so many rabbit holes of endocrine disruptors, of clean eating, of keto, of all these different things. And I felt so unwell. Like I was doing all of these things on paper that looked so healthy, but I think I was really anxious. I think my nervous system was like, what on earth is going on?
Yeah.
What are you doing to us? Like in this scarcity of this lovely abundant way we can eat in a healthful way, and actually being very rigid. I think I definitely was quite rigid. I was quite an A-type personality. I've not been used to not being able to study and get what I want. I think that's quite common for a lot of people, the longer they spend in this landscape, to think, oh, it's my fault, I need to be doing something. So yeah, anxiety is the piece to me. And I think coming back into the body, connecting with the sensations of the body, which is kind of quite interested in somatic work and how we work somatically with the body, to be able to come almost befriending anxiety a little bit and being with those things. That's a big focus. I do a lot of work with the pelvis, places where we hold a lot of tension on our journey, hips, lower back, all of that kind of, I think it's quite medical, isn't it? We have a lot of invasive things happen to us, and we just plow on regardless, because we want to get to the destination of getting the positive test, getting to the pregnancy and holding our baby. we ride over it, like all the internal scans, all of that. So I'm really interested in really spending time with the body and nurturing the body. So lots of people work with me in that way, in a kind of physical, let's look at that. Anxiety and somatic work and breath work and meditation and soothing and journaling and all, toolkitting people with little simple things they can have with them. People who get very anxious in the waiting room, for example, waiting for test day, the 2-week wait, waiting for those calls to see how many eggs all of that waiting. It's like managing waiting. So that is a big piece of my work. It's like, what have we got? What might be helpful? Panic attacks. What could we, like, just simple things like particular breath techniques you could use in the waiting room, particular visual cues you could actually look to bring yourself back in. You know, being on our phone is actually really helpful if we're feeling anxious because our body doesn't know where it is in space and time. So there's lots of things that we can pull in to support people through those little, I think particularly with, I mean, even with a regular cycle, there's a lot of waiting, isn't there, and trying. But an assisted conception cycle is very stressful. So it's supporting with stress. And then quite often these women stay with me because brilliant, they become pregnant, amazing, that's what we want. And then that pregnancy, particularly in the first trimester, can be so hard. You know, quite often we don't feel very well. I had hyperemesis, so it was just a complete, not like I thought I would be, wearing lovely dresses and buying lovely things, and I was just gripping on for dear life on the side of my bed. I couldn't even.
That was Kat as well.
So coming up to peace with that, you know, this isn't maybe what you thought it was going to be like. Maybe you are anxious, maybe you feel really so ill. Like, I think that's probably where people need support as much as anywhere else. So that people quite often stay with me. People do tend to gain more confidence as the pregnancy progresses. You know, they get some feedback from their baby, they can feel baby's movements, they have reached particular points where they're starting to feel more comfortable. And a lot of people get to a point where it's like, okay, I'm going to go to a regular pregnancy yoga class now, but I can do pregnancy yoga from the waist up. So if people feel very nervous about moving their body, I can support them to join regular classes in a way where they can advocate for what they need and move in a way that feels safe. So there's so many things, and increasingly I'm working with people, with Hannah on our Golden Shores, it's called, our birth course, to support them through birth and motherhood, because you have already been, your journey's been a lot longer to get here. How are you going to look after yourself? Because we're so baby-centered focused, I think. Yeah. And I think for me, I didn't have a clue. I didn't even know the 4th trimester was a thing. I just went into it, and it was quite shocking for me, the 1st trimester, in terms of me coming out of hospital, bringing this, I hadn't been home for like 12 weeks, bring this baby home, no sleep. It was like simultaneous wordless joy of having this baby, and also, wow, I went through something quite huge there. And
yeah,
I think there's a lot of, we prep on birth, don't we, for this day. Maybe it's longer than a day for some people, birth. We don't really think about the rest of our lives. So that's where we kind of try, and lots and lots of things that we do with people of working, you know, for 4th trimester preparation and birth preparation. So we do hypnobirthing. We do some more powerful active birthing things. It's really beautiful. And the women that come and find us, I think they're just really glad to have found somewhere that gets them, you know. So yeah.
And you said that's called, what was it, on Golden Shores?
Yeah. It's only started recently, and it's growing, and it's really lovely, and people are having their babies and bringing their stories back to us. So
amazing.
I think it's grief. I come back to that grief piece, you know. A lot of it, I've heard it called disenfranchised grief, of things that we lose along the way. Like, we lose the way we thought it would happen. Like, we would get married. Like, for me, I would get married, and then I would have a baby, and then I might have 2 more babies in a particular order. And I would have done with that by the time I was 36, 37, and didn't go that way. And we can grieve the loss of our embryos. We can grieve the loss of, innocence. And then for a lot of people, that miscarriage, baby loss. And we still keep going, you know, we still keep going without time to hold space for that. So tonight I'm actually holding a grief tending circle for fertility. So
oh, wow,
people can come and be with their grief, because I don't think in the modern world, and in a lot of cultures anyway, we have time for that. You know, we don't make space to be with those feelings. And I think that that's probably a big thread of my work as well. It's like we have to be with it a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I wish you were here in the States. I could easily come to all of these things that you offer. I know obviously you are in the UK and you offer your classes in person. Do you have anything online as well?
Mostly online. So I have American clients.
Oh,
Have
wow.
clients even. The time difference makes that quite tricky. So yeah, I was in person, and then the pandemic, I was like, I'm never teaching yoga online. When we all went like lockdown, like I'm not doing that. And then I quickly did start doing it. So my community is quite global really now, predominantly UK, but I do have quite a lot of international clients, and the majority of my work is online. So
that's incredible. What does that look like as far as like as an online client? Is it still pretty similar?
Similar. There's the difficulty is I can't touch you. So it's like I can't adjust people in yoga shape. But so for the yoga courses that I run, I don't run them very often. I run them once or twice a year. There is also a WhatsApp community group. So I will do a lot of the kind of, we're going to do this pose tonight, guys, and you probably need to something a bolster. Here's how you might fashion a bolster. There's a lot of kind of, it's not just turn up for the class. So at the moment, there are 22 women in a WhatsApp group. We talk in between the session. We have different themes that we go through. There's some community there as well. So it's been really important to me to try and recreate that in an online studio space in the way that you might, it's not the same as being in a person space. It's not. But when I have run them locally, the groups are much smaller because the people in a small, like in Manchester, I mean, it's 1 in 6, so they shouldn't really be smaller groups, but it does tend to be a smaller experience running locally, whereas I've got around 22 people on this online course, and then people can connect in betweens. And I think that's so important. And it's not like we're talking about trying to conceive all the time in those conversations. It's just knowing that other people get it, and that you're not going to. I'm so fascinated with the way that people talk to us when they don't understand. It's like, if you go on my Instagram page, a lot of what I talk about is language and communication and the things that people say and what we do with that. And I think, if you're in a room with women who have been trying to conceive for a while, however long that is, you're not going to be told to just relax, just to go on holiday, that stuff. So that's lovely. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's amazing. Okay, so I know you said that you are starting to train to be a psychotherapist as well. And then you started a podcast, am I right? Is that?
Yeah. So we're very admiring of what you have produced. So yes, we're trying to do, we've done a season of 6, and they are birth stories of people that have had a longer journey to get there. So we've talked to Jenny Agg, who is a newspaper columnist in the UK, who talks about midwifery. Who will be our next guest. We've talked to quite a few people about their stories and what their birth was like. Were they able to prepare for birth? Because I think a lot of people, it's too much to think ahead. It's too much to buy the crib. It's too much, and we don't. It's very difficult to be able to think about that. So we've tried to pull these stories together where people can say, this is how I did that, and this is what my birth story was like, and this is what it was like afterwards as well.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's amazing. And that's also on Golden Shores, right?
That's Golden Shores. And all of my stuff is just under my name, Helen Davenport Peace.
Okay. Yeah. And where can we find that at? It's up and running, and we could.
Instagram is where you'll find me most. So Instagram.
Okay, yeah.
Peace is where I am. And similarly with Golden Shores, there's a website for both of those things. And because I think sometimes you just need to find people that talk about this stuff, and I don't think the trauma and the grief and the anxiety of it all is really as widely understood as it should be, certainly not in the medical world,
Absolutely. I think it's most definitely my experience is you just keep moving on to the next thing. It was very brushed over. I was quickly just offered medicine just to go on right after, which is, it works for some people. I personally didn't want to go on medicine right after I delivered, but I had a lot of anxiety. And so, it was just quickly brushed over, and it's not talked about. So definitely.
And it's difficult when you've got your baby because I don't know, it's maybe different in America, maybe very different how you get looked after, presumably. We have health visitors here. And I didn't really feel like I wanted to share too much in case she thought I couldn't look after my baby, which is probably quite irrational thinking, but it's like, how much of this do I say that actually I'm not sleeping because I'm too scared to go to sleep because I want to watch that he's breathing. Like it was quite high level of, I couldn't believe that I could be fortunate enough to have my baby and that everything was going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's difficult, isn't it? The support there. And yeah, I think it can be very, very quickly off of medication, but I think that is great. And that is probably important for a lot of people. But there's also deeper work underneath to be done, isn't there? I think.
Absolutely.
And having someone witness it and say, wow, you went through a lot and you need support, you're going to carry on needing support, as all new mothers do. We don't have the village that we used to have around us, do we, in the same way?
It's so true. Goodness, that's incredible. Is there anything specifically that you would want to share with our audience? I know you shared such amazing things of what you offer and just about grief, but is there any additional things you want to share, what you offer, or just advice for anyone kind of walking this journey?
Oh my goodness, advice. I think what I would say to myself, like if I could go back in time to 33-year-old me that was just maybe 6 months in, starting to get really stressed, I think the things that really supported me was community. And that was really important for me to find. I was quite lucky. I found an online forum and still speak to those women today. So that was very essential for me. So I think finding people that you feel comfortable to talk to that are going to really understand and you get it. And it's complicated when we make friends that are also trying and in that world, because we don't all get pregnant at the same time. So they're complicated friendships, but I do think that kind of connection and community was really, really important. I think the other thing that I would say is I have a very huge, and you'll see that if anyone comes and looks at my page, I have a real huge passion and fascination about the wellness industry and the message that it gives about fertility. I think that can be really troubling and it can take us down roads where we can be quite rigid and get very worried and blame ourselves for not doing it right. I don't think, and this is a generalization, but I don't think men experience that in the same way. I don't think the messaging is aimed at men in the same way as it is at women in terms of fertility support. I know that we carry the child, but in terms of fertility, I think it's very gendered. So that kind of, I'm quite passionate about ethics and the ethics of the wellness community in terms of, people that might not have traveled that path themselves, being very quick to give advice to people who have traveled it a long time and that they can kind of fix something needs fixing. I think that could be really problematic because fertility is mysterious, it's very, very mysterious.
True.
It is men and women who are going through that. So I think thinking about your relationship with wellness, and that it is also capitalism. It's like there is always something that you could buy or that you could change or that you could look at yourself, and there will always be new trends that come out, but you are doing a brilliant job. So I think that's what I want to say to anyone listening here. You will be doing so much. We only have to look at some of our friends and family to know that they weren't doing any of those things and they conceived straight away. It's blame and how we kind of be with shedding some of those layers of blame that I think we kind of start to bring into ourselves. I think that would be my message. You're doing a brilliant job. Write everything down. You're doing a lot. And do that really. I do that with a lot of love, particularly if people feel like, those months where you try everything. It's like you've thrown everything in the bag, like really expensive supplements. You did the fertility yoga. You did everything you possibly could. That feeling when you do get your period is crushing. And I think that is, I would like to extend a lot of love out to people who then look back and think, well, it's because I'm not doing enough. It's like, it's just really hard. It is that hard. And if doctors knew it all, they knew. Like if there was something out there that we knew, it would be, we would know it. And I think it's that blame thing. I like to protect people from that if I can. I hope that makes sense.
No, absolutely. It's incredible. You're so right. I love that. I think that will really resonate with a lot of people and be really helpful for sure.
Yeah, it's not an easy place to be, is it? And we need to really surround ourselves with the people that make us feel good, Similarly on your Instagram feed, if there's people that you're following that do not, every time you see them, think, I'm not trying hard. That's, maybe mute them, it's like curate your field and find the people that are your real luminary people that you come away with from feeling better, because it's wild out there, the fertility advice that is there. I don't know whether you experienced that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say, my family has said this, but be with people who like fill your cup. Don't, take all from your cup. So just even that, just a little.
Absolutely. And the people that we consume on social media and the books we read, they're also in our field. I burnt quite a lot of my books. I had a little bonfire. It's like, well, I'm going to burn. I'm not, this book makes me feel, I'm not going to name books because that's hard. But there were some that really didn't, they made me feel quite panicked actually. So it's like, right, it's time to let some of that go, which in the last year, I let a lot of that stuff. I tried to bring the things that were like really feeding my joy a bit more because I think I had lost connection with that. And yeah, so sometimes we need to edit a little bit, don't we? What we're seeing.
Yeah, that's incredible. Oh my goodness, Helen, I love all of your things. I can't wait to even dive deeper into your website. And I was looking, you have a free guidebook, is that right?
Oh, I have one that I did this year, which might be useful for anyone listening. I wrote something for some people, some of my clients, but I get put it out in the world. It's free. It's called Rewild. It's for anyone that's taking a break. So, sometimes you just think, maybe your partner's away, you can't try that month, or maybe it's summer and you want to go on holiday and you want to just not think about it for a while, or I don't know, maybe you're on the back of a cycle that hasn't worked that time. It's for taking a break. We're taking a break that feels good. So you can kind of think, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'd like to do in this time and really make it meaningful for you. Because I think sometimes taking a break can be really tough. Because we want a baby yesterday. We don't want to take breaks. Sometimes, maybe you've had surgery. You've got to take a little pause. I have a guidebook for that I wrote this year. I have some free meditations on Insight Timer that you can find, which are about waiting. It's really good for the 2-week wait. There's a walking meditation as well. If you're waiting for that embryologist call, or you're waiting for test day, get moving and meditating at the same time. So they're a nice free resource that people can access.
That's incredible. Well, I will definitely link everything onto our website as well as on our Apple and Spotify on the bio there when we post this episode and it goes live. So I'll definitely link it for people to access. But what is the best way if someone is interested in hiring you, becoming a client? What's the easiest way for them to contact you?
Find me on Instagram. If you're not on Instagram, you can email me. My email's on my website. Yeah, I'm very friendly. You can ask me anything, even if you don't want to work with me, you just want to ask me questions. It's just like I spend too long on Instagram, but I love it. I don't resent being there because I really enjoy it and I enjoy the community that I have there. So yeah, you can find me there, find me online.
Perfect. Okay, and again, her Instagram is at Helen Davenport Peace. And if you can just go to her Instagram, but her website is also there. And her website is thefold.uk. Is that right?
That's the name of my studio. I'm probably going to transition that to my name, but that is the name of the studio when I started and I was working quite locally. So yeah, but it's The Fold, it's my studio.
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for all that you do and for just all the women and just everything that you offer and that you're continuing to offer with your podcast now. I can't wait to listen and just hear all these birth stories. It's incredible what you're doing. We're so thankful.
I have to have you on as a guest. And
yes, that would be amazing. I know Kat and I's birth stories are pretty different. So that would be really cool too.
Yeah. The next season, I might come and say, come and talk to us about what it was like for you. Because I think that's one thing I'm going to say is we think when we're pregnant, we're not allowed to complain. Like, you want so much and you got this. And particularly with people that we've met in the trying to conceive community who are not there yet, that becomes very difficult. What are we allowed to say in terms of, actually, my pregnancy was very challenging in lots of ways. Wonderful. It was wonderful. I'm really glad I experienced it, but it was challenging. Having a safe space to be able to say that and to hear other people's stories, I think is going to be really powerful. And to hear other people manage to think about birth, think about there's a lot of jinxing, isn't there? If I do this, that kind of conversation has come up quite a lot for people who've been on the podcast so far. So I think it's going to be really helpful for people.
That's incredible. And I feel like even more so with people that, struggled with fertility, they even more don't want to complain because they're just so thankful that they got to that point of pregnancy that then they're like, okay, well, I don't want to complain because this is what I wanted or prayed for this whole entire time. and now we're here and I don't want to complain. But even afterwards, I've shared this on the podcast before, is even after having my son, I don't want to like complain about, oh, I'm so tired or I'm so this, because like, this is all I wanted was a baby. So it's like a double-edged sword,
And we know how hard it is to hear that when we don't desperately want one. It's like, I see your tiredness. I don't care about it.
Yeah. Because I just want the baby. Yeah.
But then when you're actually living it and you are very sleep deprived and maybe you have mastitis from breastfeeding and your baby has reflux and you're having these times with your wonderful, wonderful baby, you still need someone who's going to hold that space and say, yeah, this is hard, because mothering is beautiful, but it's a lot, it's a big transition. It's a huge transition, and it's a transition that I don't think is seen culturally. We're talking a lot about matrescence now, aren't we? And it's increasingly, there is people who have podcasts, and it's beautiful, and we're thinking about motherhood and entering this transition of motherhood and putting the mother, looking after her, putting her forward. But I think we've still got a long way to go. So yeah, I think those stories are really important. And yes, it always comes with that gratitude piece that we're there. I never lose sight of that. I don't think I lose sight of that for more than a couple of minutes, really.
Absolutely.
But there's the and, isn't there? You can be that and
yes.
You can be exhausted,
Yes.
and want someone to make you a really nice meal and to run you a bath and to hold the baby. And you can have, and it's both of those things, and both of those things are allowed. Yeah.
Just like you can have joy and grief at the same time. I know I was just talking to my sister-in-law about that recently, about like, you can, be so happy and joyful for someone that just got pregnant and still like feel that grief. So, I mean, even jealousy so much because you want it for yourself, that you can have both of those at the same time.
Coexisting. And, any pregnancy announcements are so hard. And I think we've all felt the full spectrum, and some of those feelings, we don't even really want to associate with those feelings because they don't feel very pleasant, but they're allowed, they're all valid, and they're all human and ordinary. And I think sometimes when people talk about it, you can go, oh yeah, it's okay, because I felt that. I feel like it's actually quite normalizing, isn't it? That is, you can be overjoyed for somebody, and you can also feel that really deeply for yourself of something that you don't have, I think, simultaneously. And it's tough, really tough.
Absolutely. Oh, well, Helen, thank you so much. Again, we'll share everything and link everything for people to be able to reach out to you and ask you any questions, and hopefully hire you as, their doula as well. So we're so thankful you were on today, and it was so great meeting you.
Thank you. What a lovely conversation. Thank you so much.